Hello everyone, I am here with Andrew and William.
Hello.
And we have a project we're going to work on right now. This is the boys' play garage. And I built this about 10 years ago as a place to store their Power Wheels Jeep and some toys. And it's been 10 years now. And as you can see, it needs some repairs. And we're going to clean out some of the junk here. But the main two things we're going to do is, as you can see, this was a French door. And the bottom part broke, so I took it off already. And we're going to rebuild that. Probably do that in a separate video. But tonight, we are going to work on this. This was my idea of a garage door. Looked at several ways to do this 10 years ago when I built this, and basically what it is a piece of corrugated cardboard, and it rolls up kind of like a roll-top desk, and a combination of a roll-top desk and a regular sectional garage door. So this is Coro plast. It's a lot like corrugated cardboard, but it's plastic, and it's really held up. I had no idea how well this would hold up. But it's held up really well, and it's just been the last couple of years where it's really deteriorated like this. Okay, so we've backed out the Jeep and we've got the door open. And I'll show you how this works. If we have enough light in here. There's a groove in the door right here that the coroplast rides in. And then the door itself has these braces. But it basically rides in that little groove just like a roll-top desk. And we're going to want to take this completely out, and then I can show you exactly how the door is made. There's a little stop block on either side, and we are going to take those off. So, William, you want to do the honors? Alright, so now William is going to pull the door off of that track.
Stiff at the very end. There we go.
This is what it looks like. It's one big piece of corrugated plastic or coroplast. And can you flip it over? That's the back. And basically, I just rolled this up really tightly. And then I went back and put these cross braces in just to keep it from popping out of the tracks, which worked really well up until the last year or two. And that's when it started popping out of the tracks really bad. So we're just going to replace that whole corrugated plastic. Before we start that, let's take a look at how this track works again. Again, we have the groove I showed you, that this continues all the way up. And then there's a cross brace. And we have the other side that does the same thing. And then these are just hung with braces from the shed roof. So at the bottom we have a little brass handle that was made for a closet door that's just glued on here. We're going to save that, but it's pretty tarnished from 10 years of use, so I'm just going to spray paint it with some silver. And we'll let that dry. Okay, well we have our new sheet of Coro here. And the old door is obviously sitting on top of it. And what we want here is, William, if you can come a little closer. This is corrugated plastic, and so there's a grain, or the corrugated direction, if you can kind of zoom in on that. We want that to be in the direction the door rolls. And the challenge is that the height of this door needs to be about 50 inches, not 48. Which is the width of our material. So what we're going to do is the same thing I did last time when I built this. We're just going to add a small little piece of Coro on top. And we could use some packing tape. And that mainly stays inside, so that'll work just fine. That part held up just fine. So now what we're going to do is cut our material to dimension and be ready to create the new one. Okay, so the dimension we're looking for is 41 inches wide. I've got that marked out, and I've got a straight board here. Then I'm just going to use a box cutter, and we're going to cut that. And hopefully get it all the way through. Pop this loose. And we do. So now we have to create that little top piece we talked about. That's going to be 41 inches wide again, and then an additional 2 inches. So I've got the marks on my Coro here. I'm just going to cut this little 2-inch dimension. And back around, line it up on my marks. Okay, now we're in the garage, and we have our 2 pieces, our little thin strip and our big main one. And we are going to do some Coro bonding, which is just a fancy term to say I'm going to tape it together with some packing tape. So, I'm just going to run a long piece of tape, stick it to my bench to get it started. Squeeze these together. Like so. And then we can cut our excess. And I'm going to flip it over. Sweep up some of the dirt. And we'll do the same thing on the back. And like I said, this is mostly going to be hidden up in the top of the door anyway. Trim these off. And now we have a 50-inch board instead of a 48-inch board. Okay, well we got the old door back up here, and the reason why is I'm going to reuse these lateral boards, the lateral supports, on the new door. So I'm going to take them off of here, and we're going to move them over. These are just screwed through the Coro. You able to see that? And we have a washer with a screw, and then the nut just goes and kind of was smashed into the board, which holds it in place. So first thing we're going to do is just pop these all off. And to do that, we have our handy dandy screwdriver here. I'm going to pop these right out. Alright, we are officially done with the old door. I have popped off that latch that we painted earlier. William is bringing on the new door. And let's see what side we think is the front. I think we decided this was going to be the back. We're going to work from the back. So, what we want to do now is put on those lateral braces. So, you're going to hand me brace number 1, William. These are going to sit. The other one I had it up about 1 inch, and I've decided to change the design a little bit. That caused the door to kind of smash at the bottom. I think if I put this one on the bottom, right on against the bottom, that's going to help that keep that from happening. So what I'm going to do is center this. I'm going to clamp it on each side, and then I'm going to extend these holes out through into the Coro. Well, as I was getting ready to do that, I noticed that this bottom one was a little bit warped, and I went to flex it to see if I could get it to bend it all, and it actually snapped. So this one's basically shot, and the reason for that is this was the one on the bottom. It would get all the moisture damage. You can even see one of the bolts broke off here. one of the screws rather, when I was trying to take that off. So I happened to find this piece of stock in my stash that's about the right thickness, and I think what I'm going to do is just rip this in half and use a piece of this. This is a much better wood, and it'll make a nice bottom for our door. So let's go do that. Alright, so here's our new board. We just cut on the table saw, and then I cut it to length. And this one doesn't have holes in it yet, so I'm just going to take one of the other boards, and this doesn't have to be precision or anything, so I'm just going to kind of copy these measurements down, just so they all match. And set this one aside. So then what I want to do is line this up again with the bottom of the door. Just a little tiny bit of overhang. And then I'm going to clamp them in place. And double check this measurement, and we're going to try to get it centered. So we are about 1 1/8 inches on this side. And about 7/8 on this side. So I need to scoot this over just a little. Probably too much. That looks pretty good. About 1 inch on the dot and 1 inch on the dot. So go ahead and we'll clamp these. And then we're just going to drill through the center through both the Coro and board. Alright, we've got our holes drilled. We can go ahead and attach these with the 4 bolts, and we'll do that right now, and this will be the basis of all the other measurements. Alright, we have the bottom rail in place. And I measured the old door before we assembled it, and the rails were 14 inches apart. We moved this down 1 inch to get a little closer to the bottom of the door. So what I'm going to do is for the first 2 rails make them 14.5 inches up to compensate for that extra inch. So let's go ahead and measure out our 14.5. This will be from the top of the board to the bottom of the new board. So now we have our mark for our second brace, and we're just going to repeat the same process. We will clamp it on the sides. Won't be able to clamp it in the middle again, but we'll just extend those holes through and bolt it in place. Alright, one more part to go, and just to be consistent, we're going to go ahead and make that 14.5 again from the top of this last bar, which takes us right here. And right here. So we can take our last bar, lay it on that line, and I'm just going to repeat the entire process again, drilling the holes and threading through the washers, springs, and nuts. Alright, almost done. One more step. We used new hardware on a couple of these because the old hardware wasn't in great shape in a couple of cases. So I am just going to cut these off to a slightly more sane length. And these are number 832 screws. See if I can thread this thing on here while we're in place. Normally you'd probably want to do this ahead of time. But if I can get this lined up, this should work too. Probably good enough. And watching for flying pieces of metal. Didn't even fly. And let's shred that off, and we'll do that one more time. Cut. There we go. Alright, so our next project is, remember our little handle from the old door that we took off? We are going to prepare to install it on the new door. So we're going to go ahead and put this in the center, and it could be at whatever arbitrary height we want. I'm just going to put it at some distance from the bottom. Let's see what makes sense. 4 inches from the bottom is probably pretty good. And then we're going to want to center it, so we'll get a center line. This is 41 inches wide, so 20 and a half is our center line. So we can just draw that in, we'll see by it. So now, I'm going to make this line at the bottom of my handle. If we measure this, we're going to just cut out the recessed part so that it can poke through the door from the other side. And this is about 1 inch, and then the width is about 2 3/4. So we can draw up 1 inch here. Should probably get my square out, but just for this one little cut, I'm not looking for too much precision here. And then 1 3/8. So I'm going to draw 1 3/8 to either side of my center line. And again, if I were doing precision work, I would get a square out or something, but this is just a rough cut, so I'm just going to freehand it. So we go back to our box cutter, and we're just going to cut out this little area. See how she works? Beautiful. So that's how that'll work. We will simply get some glue of some sort, probably liquid nails, and glue that on. So let's go do that now. Okay, I looked at my stash of caulks and glues and everything, and I have a tube of PL Premium, which would be perfect for this job, but it's not been opened. I just have this tiny little piece, and I don't want to open a brand new PL Premium just for that. I found this GE Pure Silicone, 100% silicone. I think that'll work just fine, and it's a partial tube, and it still works, so we're going to try that. I think silicone will be just fine. So what I'm just going to do is lay out a small bead on the narrow section here. And don't want to get too much on the door itself. Then we can lay a slightly bigger bead on the wider edge. Like that. Wipe off my tip. Then, if I can do this without getting myself all silicone, we just lay that in the hole. Make sure it's kind of straight. And we didn't have too much squeeze out, which is good. I will let this solidify, and then I can kind of take the squeeze out off with my fingernail or a knife or something, but it's probably not even bad enough to worry about, as well as the tiny little bit I spilled over here. So we're going to let that dry, and then we will come back and finish up. Alright, our silicone is essentially dry, and our door got a little dirty just cutting it on the ground and stuff. My workbench isn't real clean either, so I'm just using some Windex to clean it up. Should clean up really nicely. And we're getting really close to being done with the creation of the door. Step in front of the camera here.
Looks beautiful.
Xander. We have our handle. I won't pull too hard on it because it might not be 100% dry. But we have our door. And we got a couple more details to do yet. The first one is on the old door, we had a little notch on each side of the bottom. That's just because the way the shed's built, there's a 2x4 that butts up against here. And I need to notch this out to about 1 inch to meet this brace board. And then the thickness of a 2x4, which is 1.5 inches. So, let's go ahead and mark that. We'll mark 1.5 inches. And 1 inch. This Coro press is really easy to work with. It can cut with the box cutters. It's not very expensive. I didn't really talk about the cost. You can buy it at Home Depot, which is probably one of the more expensive places to buy it. I did that just because it was convenient. It cost a little over $20 a sheet for a 4x8 sheet. Sign shops sometimes carry it and will sell it. I used to buy it from sign shops for between $10 and $15 a sheet back a number of years ago. I don't know if that's still true. You can call around. Be sure to tell them you're not doing a sign and trying to compete with them, that you're using it for another project. And there we have it. Now our next step, this has to be rolled through that groove on the shed like a roll top desk. And if you've ever used a roll top desk, you know that it's very flexible. And this Coro is somewhat flexible, but we need it even more flexible. So what I'm going to do is just start rolling it up. I'm actually going to start from the other side so we don't pop that handle. I'm just going to roll this up like I'm rolling up a carpet.
But not as convenient as a carpet, because it's a bit harder.
So this is going to kind of look like it's wrecking it, but you need this in order for it to roll smoothly. And we popped our handle out. Ha. Well, that's what happens when you rush something. We will go ahead and install this door, and then I'm going to go ahead and redo this handle while it's outside. We've added our flexibility here. Live and learn. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this door down just real quick. I'll probably wipe this off my workbench off too, it's getting it dirty. And we'll be back outside to show you how to put the door in. We are out here at the shed, and Andrew's picking the silicone off the handle that we unsuccessfully tried to glue on. We're going to go ahead and go on without it. We can test the door, and then we're going to re-silicone it out here and tape it in place while it dries. Here is our garage again, play garage. Lots of junk that these guys are going to clean up, right? Mm-hmm. So you can start using it again, at least as a tool shed or something. William's getting a little tall for it, but it'll still be fun. At least we can make it look nice again, even if they don't use it. But at the beginning of this video, we removed the stop block and the old door from these slots. Looks kind of like a garage door, morphed with a roll top desk. So we're just going to take the bottom of the door and insert it into that groove, and then we're going to slide the door all the way in place. And if we measured correctly, it should just fit. William's going to line both sides up, and once he gets it started, kind of just works its way in. When I did this the first time, I had to figure out all these mechanisms, but this time we're kind of just copying what I did 10 years ago. There we have it. Our first attempt at the door. Why don't you come on out, William, through the regular door.
Which has half of it gone.
And we have our handle hole here. Go ahead and open the door to the top.
We've got some soap.
And that works really smoothly. That works great. So we have one more job to do, and that is to reinstall those stop blocks. So let's go ahead and do that. Just gonna try to line up the screw holes where they used to be, because those were carefully placed at one point. And then we do the other side. Get anything on the camera there, William? Or is it too dark?
It's fine. Well, that really brightened it up.
One, these blocks are designed to hit this rail, or this brace, and that keeps the door from going off the track. In this case, it's actually hitting the Coro. Oh, I see this side's stuck. I can't believe I put this one in upside down. Let's go ahead and pop this around the other direction. Yeah, we want that groove to be free. There we go. Just the way it was. I may have to do it on the other side too. Look. Again, those are designed to hit there. And
The other side's fine.
it's fine. There we go. That hits it. And if you turn around, that brings the door just about all the way to the top. Let's go outside and feel it.
Oh.
So that's the top of travel. And we will lower the door. And
That's going pretty fast.
looks pretty good again. We are now putting new silicone on. This time we will not disturb it until it's dry. Push that on the hole.
Some of the silicone didn't get on.
And let's go ahead and tape this in place. Leave it overnight. This tape does not want to stick.
It's probably because it's so clean.
But that's not going to go anywhere. All right, well, we are done with this part of the project. Okay. And then we're going to move on to the next part of our project. We're going to do this in a second video, but I'll do a preview for you. The door is a French door. The bottom half pretty much rotted out because the water runs off the roof and splashes up. Top half's in pretty good shape. Tiny bit of water damage here. We will repaint and fix that up a little bit, but I think it's pretty solid. We're going to rebuild the bottom half in the next video. So that'll be the next video. Thanks for watching.